Hey friends, we had a little snow in the Heartland. Hey, this next episode is with Jerry Franklin. He is a Vietnam veteran, a certified journeyman farrier. You know him as the father of Dusty Franklin, but he had a heck of a story to tell, and I think you're really going to enjoy it. So sit back, listen, and let me know what you think about it. We're cleared for takeoff. Well, everybody, I'm sitting here with Jerry Franklin, and so um, if you don't know, Jerry Franklin is the dad of Dusty Franklin, who's been on my podcast several times. Thank you very much for sitting with me.
Thank you.
We had a nice lunch, and I understand you're a 1948 model.
Yes.
Yes, and where did you grow up, sir?
I grew up in West Texas. My dad was a was a cotton farmer. So I was born in Florida, Texas, which is northwest of Lubbock, about 50 miles. And they farmed between Florida and Petersburg. Then they sold out there and moved to Van Horn, Texas. Him and three of his brothers.
And how old were you when that happened?
Oh gosh, I was probably 2.
Okay, so you don't remember that happening?
Nope. And then my brother was born in Plainview, and this was been about. I was born in 48, so that'd been like he moved there in the spring of 51. So I was still right at a little over 2 years old.
And were they still cotton farming whenever you
Yep,
grew up?
they bought a section of land, broke it out, and planted the whole thing in cotton.
Wow.
And they had what they call braceros, which was Mexicans from Mexico that would come to the border, and then they would pick them up at the border, bring them over, and house them and work them during the season.
And so they were still picking and putting them in bags that carried behind them.
Mm-hmm.
Did you ever get to do that?
No, thank God.
It didn't sound like fun, huh?
I've hoed a lot of cotton, but I never have picked any cotton.
Okay, by hoeing, you're talking with a hand?
Yeah, hoeing the weeds out of the cotton crop.
Oh my gosh! So a section worth of cotton for hoeing. That's the
Yeah, there's 3 of us boys, and I was the oldest, so I was the one that got in charge of keeping everybody punched up and going in the summertime out there hoeing cotton.
man. Did you live there through high school?
We moved from from Culberson County to Muleshoe, Texas, right south of Muleshoe, and I started school in a little schoolhouse called in 3-way, and there was like first and second grade in the same class. So I started school there. I had the same teacher the first and second grade. About the middle of the second year, my dad traded a dryland cotton farm that he had there in Muleshoe to a irrigated land in Idalou, which is about halfway between. It's east of Lubbock, about 12 miles.
Okay.
Our farm was about halfway between Lubbock and Idalou.
Okay. All right. And so when did you leave home? How old were you?
I got out of high school. I graduated high school there in Idalou, and went to Levelland and went to college.
You went to college in Texas right away? What were you studying? What were you going to be?
I was just ag,
okay.
Whatever it is. I went up there in South Plains Junior College.
And were you shoeing horses yet?
Well, yes and no. My dad learned how to shoe horses back in the late 30s, early 40s. He was raised in Colorado City and got him a job working on a ranch in south of San Angelo, Garden City. And at that time, when you went to work on a ranch, you was given like half a dozen horses, and you were responsible for them, shoeing them, whatever, You
had your string that you had to take care of.
And so it was your string. And so he had an older gentleman, taught him how to, trim and shoe horses on that ranch. And then he didn't do it for a long time. And then whenever I got to where I was in 12, 13 years old, we got in the racehorse business. My dad was a cotton farmer, but he had plenty of extra time. So he always liked horses. So we got in the racehorse business. We bought a stud that came off the 4.6s that was C-bars
So quarter horse racing then.
Quarter horse racing. Yeah, he was C-Bars now, but own daughter Joe Hancock.
Oh my gosh.
So he was one of the last studs that they raised that went straight back to Joe Hancock.
And your dad had him.
My dad had him, and
Wow.
so anyway,
Was that a nice horse? Was that a nice horse?
he was a great horse. We started. He was already broke, and we rope steers on him, and then we decided, well, since he's had a C-Bars, and we'll try to run him. So we sent him up to Plainview to a guy to train for a racehorse, and took him at the track, and he was so well broke that you could change your weight in your stirrups, and he would change leads.
Oh man.
So it was hard to get him AAA'd because the jockeys wouldn't get. And so anyway, we finally got him AAA'd at Denver, and he ran 7th in a race and AAA'd at that because they were so close, compact together, running right side by side. He couldn't change leads, so he ran, with the crowd right there, and so he AAA'd run 7th in that race.
There you go. Well, that's pretty interesting. So you grew up horseback then?
Yeah, and like I say, my dad, he when he'd find a horseshoer that he liked, the horseshoer would do it. So when the cotton farming was good, the horseshoer would do it. When the cotton farming wasn't any good, then my dad didn't have the extra money. He did it himself.
Okay.
Me being the oldest, I was always the one that got to hold horses for him. And it's got to be the most boring job in the world.
Yeah, but it teaches you a lot.
Yeah, so I figured the only way I was ever going to keep from holding horses from my dad was to learn how to help him, so my little brother would have to hold the horses. And so I got to where I was helping him, and so my little brother, and when he died here a few years back, he still hated horses.
So it didn't stick with him then?
No, it didn't.
Oh.
So whenever, I knew how to trim, and I wasn't doing any shoeing, just to trim. So when I went to college, and I was trimming a few horses, just making spending money. And like I say, I went to stayed there to South Plains Junior College there for a year or so.
And were you rodeoing for the college?
Sir?
Were you rodeoing for the college?
I was calf roping, and then I was on the collegiate livestock judging team.
So did you have a scholarship paying for college at that time?
No.
No, you just paid for it?
Yeah, I just paid for it.
Okay.
And then it wasn't as expensive as what it is now, right. I don't think.
Yeah. And scholarships weren't nearly as common, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah. Right. Well, I really enjoyed it, and got buddies. Met my wife there.
Do you remember what you were getting? So this would be what, 1968, 1967?
That would have been. I'd graduated in '67, so it'd been '68.
Yeah. So what were you getting to shoe a horse at that time? Do you have any
about $12.
Well, that's not bad. That's not bad.
Nope.
That's probably better then than what we're getting now.
About $3 to trim one.
Oh man.
And I was riding a few horses, like bronchi horses, and they had. At the rodeo arena, they had a couple of big old corrals, and so I had a guy that wanted some horses broke, so I brought a half a dozen Appaloosa horses over there, and had buddies of mine that we had a lot of fun doing this right here. We'd take and just rope them and mess with them a little bit and get them up there and pet them a little bit and then turn them loose. And then after a while, you could rope one, and them suckers would just run right to you because you were the good guy taking the rope off. You wasn't the bad guy roping them.
Right. All right.
So anyway, we broke all those dadgum horses and made a little extra spending money that way.
Very cool.
And I was swapping and trading a few horses. There was a horse sale there in Lubbock. I'd take and buy some old bronchi horses and ride them for a little bit, and then take them up there and sell them, and just make a little money that way.
You always come out ahead? Yes?
Just about nearly every time. In fact, one time I bought a horse at the sale, took him home, cleaned him all up, and took him back the next week, and resold him and made money. And the same guy that bought him up was bidding on him.
There you go. So did you have aspirations to be a calf roper or become professional, go down the road?
I always had a lot of fun doing it.
Okay.
And I never was, I'd win some amateur shows, and there's a lot of, back then there's a lot of amateur shows right around Lubbock and back east a little ways.
Okay.
and I would always placed enough to to make my spending money
There you
and
go.
and gas money, but I never was really one that would go and win all the time.
All right. So now you got married in 1970 and you were fixing to go to a ranching job. Where was that going to be?
I went actually. I didn't get married. I quit college and went to work on a ranch down in South Texas. It was an island in the Gulf of Mexico,
Oh, okay.
and right south and east a little ways from Corpus Christi. I worked on that ranch from December to uh, about May or June. That's when I got my greetings from Uncle Sam saying that I was hereby ordered to report to my induction physical into the Army.
Okay.
So
So June, this is 1970 or 1969? What year was that?
it was 69.
69. Okay.
Yep. And then so I went to Amarillo, did my induction physical into the Army, and my dad had sold his, or actually traded his farm for a ranch in Tishomingo, Oklahoma.
Okay.
And so I went to Tishomingo and spent about couple of months. Then I got another letter from Uncle Sam that you need to come take your induction physical into the Army. So, well, they didn't know what was Army. Into the military. So I went back to Amarillo, got didn't. I went to the doctor whenever he was reading my charts. When I got through, he said, "Boy, looks like the only thing wrong with you're not already in the Army, and we're fixing to take care of that."
Well, so you had a prescription, huh?
Yep. So went to Fort Lewis, Washington.
For basic?
This was in July '69, July 15th.
Okay.
I went through basic AIT. Had
And
a
what was your MOS? What was your job?
11 Bravo. I was the
Okay.
infantry.
So you were catching bullets, sending bullets.
Yeah, whenever when I went in, we went into basic training, and then from there went to AIT, which is Advanced Infantry Training, and they said that the average education in the infantry, the military, the Army at that time was 2 years of college, and I had about a year and a half.
Okay.
So, like, anybody else that came in that didn't have any college, they went to truck driving school, cook school, something, mechanic school, something to teach them a trade, so they would have a trade when they got out.
Okay.
So
Yeah, makes sense.
anyway, that's kind of the way I went, and I was in there with quite a few guys that was there because they had an option of going to jail or going to the Army. So that
Yep.
in being that close to the Canadian border, we had a lot of guys that left. I'd say out of my basic training unit, there was probably 3 or 4 that just
Snuck
cut
away.
loose and went to Canada.
I'll
And
be
out of my
damned.
AIT unit, which was in the same place, we had half a dozen that did the same thing.
No kidding. Did you guys, did you go to a line unit after that in the States, or did you go straight to
No, I went
Vietnam?
straight to Vietnam.
No kidding.
Yeah, I went from I was in I went in July 15th and I was in Vietnam December the 7th.
Wow. Pearl Harbor Day. And that's a historical day for you everywhere,
Yeah,
huh?
that's right.
And so you weren't married yet.
No,
All right.
no.
And so December 7th, you land in Vietnam, and what's that like? What do you?
When you never know. I was probably ignorant as they come as far as just the West Texas cowboy and try to be a cowboy anyway. And whenever I got, you didn't know whether you was gonna have to low crawl off the plane to go to the barracks or what. But anyway, I went through in country training. I got assigned to Charlie Company, 3rd to 22nd, 25th Infantry Division, and I went through in country training. Was stationed at that time in Cu Chi, and then I went from Cu Chi to Tay Ninh, and that was the headquarters for the 25th, and went to Fire Support Base Washington from there, which that's where my unit was at, and I got there the day before Christmas.
Okay, so it took 20 days roughly to
Yeah.
get there. Okay, and you guys saw a lot of action, didn't you?
January 7th or 8th, we went to what up top of the mountain there in South Vietnam called Nui Ba Dien, which was they called it the Black Virgin Mountain and it was the only mountain in South Vietnam. And we went to the top of that, and it took us a week to get off the top of because it's like a honeycomb. They had tunnels and they would pop up and shoot and then pop back down and go somewhere else. And this thing,
Wow.
so it had us pinned down for a long time.
And how did you get to the top of the mountain? Did they drop you on with a
The
helicopter?
helicopter.
Okay.
You had to have 100 eagle flights, which is an eagle flight is whenever a helicopter picks you up, takes you to a suspected enemy activity area, drops you down, and then you make a route around and try to find the enemy. If you don't, then they'll pick you up and take you somewhere else. So you're supposed to have 100 of those to get an air badge, and I wound up had over 300.
You had 300 eagle flights.
Yeah,
Oh my goodness.
during the year that I was there.
Wow, Jerry. So whenever you're on top of this mountain and your job is just to get rid of the enemy, and were you crawling through tunnels yourself?
Yeah, well, we would go in and just put smoke grenades in there just to see where the
smoke
smoke
would
was
go.
coming out at.
Okay.
So you'd have an idea of where maybe some of the other guys would be, and it was you never knew where they was going to pop up, and so we were trying to get here and try to find, and we had a smaller guy that was two or three of the smaller guys, and they were called tunnel rats.
Okay,
and they would go down into the tunnels and
I was going
stuff.
to ask you about that.
I
That sounded like a
I
terrible
never
job.
did.
Yeah, it doesn't sound like a good job.
No, no,
I'll be dang. And so, did you ever get wounded?
nope,
You
no,
never got
no.
hit? No shrapnel? No nothing?
The only thing I did, I was walking point one day, and we were in the jungle, and all of a sudden, I just broke out in the middle of this bunker complex.
No, but what?
A bunker complex,
Okay.
of a Vietnamese bunker complex. So the only thing that we just happened to walk right up on top of them, and I just threw a grenade in the first bunker that I saw, and then crawled in right behind it, me and two other guys, and then so the company had to fall back, regroup, and then come back forward enough to put enough suppressing fire for we could low crawl back out.
Wow.
And so I was low crawling back out, and I had my rifle, on my arms,
Right.
and I was low crawling out.
Yep.
And I was looking behind me, and I turned around just in time to run right into a tree, and my steel pot came down and cut my eyebrow right here.
Okay.
And by the time I got back to the deal, it was just blood everywhere.
It looked like you'd really been hurt, huh?
Yeah, and so the medic, he got me and everything, fixed me all up, and we got back, and the CO said, "Did we turn you in for a Purple Heart?" No, I don't want to tell people how I got this. It's Purple Heart.
You're telling them now how you got. Oh man.
But that's only when I first got there. I got issued a rifle. We were on a rifle range, and the guy to my left was shooting, and a round out of his M16 landed on the sandbag in my arm right here.
A round or just a brass?
Just the brass.
Okay, right.
And then so the brass hit right here, and it made a big old blister, and my arm swelled up that big around.
No kidding.
And so that's the reason it took me 20 days to get to my unit.
Okay.
And so anyway, they give me all kinds of antibiotics and stuff like that to get the infection out and stuff like that. And after that, I could get a cut or a scrape, and that thing would heal up just like this, because I had got
So many antibiotics.
and the antibiotics, plus I had gotten all of the bacteria stuff from a lot of the stuff there was in Vietnam.
Well, that's kind of handy.
Yeah, I thought it was pretty good myself.
Yeah, yeah.
But anyway, it was
Now, did you lose quite a few friends right beside you or around you?
we went into yes more than I want to really get into, but we had in May of '70, our company was the first company to go into Cambodia. They dropped 3 10,000-pound bombs to blow a big enough place in the jungle to land 3 helicopters at a time. And then we was on the Cambodian side of the river, and we were supposed to secure the river, that side of the river so they could build a pontoon bridge across to bring the APCs and the tanks and stuff across there from that. So when we got there, all of a sudden, all the company got landed and set up, and we started getting incoming rounds. So it came to find out it was our own incoming supposed to prep the area before we got there.
Oh man,
So we lost half a dozen guys there,
it's a friendly fire.
friendly fire. And then we stayed in Cambodia for a month, and we went over there with 140 something in our company, and came back with like 60 of the original 140 that went over there.
Man,
They either got killed or wounded or something like that. But we always was getting replacements during all this time.
yeah. So you stayed 140 strong, but you only had 60 of the originals.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. And we
Boy,
it was a beautiful country. Vietnam, they've been fighting over there for 50 years, and Cambodia they hadn't been. So I mean, there was rubber plantations and big white trees with big white trunks and beautiful triple canopy, and then there was farmers, that had maybe a field of pineapples. And I mean, just really beautiful
really
country.
nice. Huh? So did you get to see a horse while you were in Vietnam? No, no horses, huh?
No horses at all.
Oh, that's-
None. I think I saw one or two horses pulling some carts.
Okay,
And that was the only horses I saw the whole time I was there.
I'll be dang.
But
All right.
anyway, no, I got assigned to what they call Point Squad whenever we got back from Cambodia, and it's a group of individuals that was started before I got there. But every time somebody would muster out, or go home, or somebody would get killed or something like that, they would replace you. But they would have a say on who they asked to replace that. So it was really an elite group of individuals.
Okay.
And we set up when the company would set up in a circular at night.
A perimeter.
Yeah, we would be in the center with the CO. If they set up in line, we would set up with the CO.
And what was your rank at this time?
A spec 4.
Okay.
That was. I went in a couple of times for in front of the board to become a sergeant, but I had one time we got in a firefight, and the copter couldn't come. And then another time, the chopper picked me up. Then it was in a firefight, and it got shot down, and I had to jump out. And after that, I said, "Guys, you can take this. I don't really want one."
So E3 or E5 sounded like it might be a little bit bad luck for you.
That's right. So I was a spec 4 specialist, 4th class.
Right. Okay. All right. So you're part of this elite squad that stays in the center of the perimeter, and
Yeah, and a lot of times too, if the CO set up in the center, and he didn't feel like that it was, that we really didn't need to be there, we'd set up an ambush on our own, and we'd go out and set up an ambush after dark, and then be back before daylight, and then we'd be ready to go the next day and we'd set up on trails, and we would set up like some claymore mines going each direction on a trail, or we would just set up and just watch it overnight,
okay.
just to see, for the foot traffic and stuff. Because then, at that time, all of the villages were supposed to be closed down from dark till light.
They had a curfew on them.
You had a curfew on them, and so we would, if anybody was out, it was somebody that wasn't supposed to be.
Probably had its advantages and its danger.
Yeah, it had its advantages and its disadvantages. If I want to be in a position where I want to be the one that has maybe not necessarily the upper hand, but at least I'll know exactly where everything's at, and I can make the decisions on my own instead of being somewhere back here and saying this is where you need to be.
Right. Gives you a little bit of autonomy. Mm-hmm. Yeah. All right. And so, how long were you in Vietnam? Full 12 months?
I got out. I left in November 13th,
So 11 months and change,
11
huh?
months and change.
Wow.
And I it was kind of a weird deal. I left at 8 o'clock in the morning on November the 13th, Friday the 13th,
Oh,
and
oh yeah.
we went to Japan, fueled in Japan, and then flew on to Travis Air Force Base in California. And I got to Travis Air Force Base 5 hours before I left.
Oh yeah.
So it was still Friday the 13th. So I spent two Friday the 13th. So ever since then, Friday the 13th's always been my lucky day.
Okay. All right. I'll be
So
damned.
I processed out.
So you got the process out right away?
Yeah, well, no, I still had time. I was processed out and got out of my jungle fatigues into
Okay.
my dress greens.
Not your end of time of service, not your
No,
ETS.
no,
Okay.
no.
All
I
right.
was just all I did was just got out of the Travis Air Force Base.
Okay.
So they issued you army greens and give you some money to travel on, and then I got on a plane there and flew to Lubbock and met my future wife there at the airport, and that was the first plane to land in Lubbock all day long because of fog.
Oh, fog in Lubbock, huh?
Yeah.
I'll be
so
dang.
so anyway, we went. She picked me up at the airport, and I went to a Western store, bought me some boots and my Wranglers and a Western shirt, and a hat, and everything. We went to see Johnny Bush at a dance that night.
All right. That's very cool. Okay, so when were you able to get out of the service?
I was stationed from there. We got married December the 7th, and 1970, and then I was stationed in Fort Benning, Georgia. From the I called my officer of the day at the next duty station, and I told him that I wanted an extra couple of weeks vacation or leave because I was going to get married. And I spent the last Christmas in Vietnam. I want to spend this Christmas with the family. Then he said, "Get married. If the Army wanted you to have a wife, they'd issued you one." But he said yes. So it was between Christmas and New Year's that we went to Fort Benning. And then I stayed there till July 15th of 71 and
Okay.
got out. And then went back to where my dad had a ranch there in Tishomingo,
Tishmingo, Oklahoma.
Oklahoma,
Where is that?
30 miles east of Ardmore.
Well, sir, I
Yep.
got to say thank you so much for your service. It's guys like you allow the world we live in. So thank you very much.
You're welcome. Thank you.
And you're still friends with a lot of your old buddies from Vietnam, huh?
I mean, we in 1990, I had a guy call me and said, "Hey, we're having a reunion in San Antonio in June or July, I can't remember," and said we'd like for you to come.
June or July in San Antonio? Were you guys trying to reproduce the Vietnam heat?
There you go. It was hot, but anyway, I said, "Yeah, it worked great." So at that time, I was living in Alvin, right there south of Houston, and I had he had called the last on our records. The last entry they had was me in Ravia, Oklahoma, which is right east of Tishomingo, and so or west of Tishomingo, and so he called Tishomingo. Dylan asked for Jerry Franklin, and the lady at that time she said, "We don't have a Jerry Franklin listed," and she said the only Franklin we have listed is a W.T. Franklin, which was my dad, and he. The guy said, "Well, let me have that number." So he got that number. He called it and was talking to my dad about it, and he gave him my number down in Alvin, and that's how they got in touch with me. So I was short horses.
For you youngsters, that's how it used to happen. You couldn't just look at Facebook.
No, yeah.
You had to call around. You had to find somebody who knew somebody who knew somebody.
That's right. So anyway, he called me, and so this was that particular time. I was shooting a lot of horses out west of Houston, And so I scheduled horses about halfway to San Antonio on the day that I was going to go to the reunion.
Oh,
And when I got through with that last horse, that was the hardest thing I think I ever did, is kept that truck headed west.
oh, really?
Because it'd been 20 years since I'd seen any of these guys.
Oh, yeah. Were you worried about it?
And well, I just didn't. There was a lot of memories that I had of Vietnam that I didn't want brought back to the surface. So I just, I just more or less closed it out of my life, and I forgot about it and was going on with my life.
Right.
And
And had you, if you don't mind my asking, did you suffer PTSD, or did you, were you having nightmares
quite a bit.
even at that time?
Yep. But I think what helped me more with now, a lot of people probably won't agree with this, but
They don't have to.
yeah.
Okay.
For what I think helped me more with PTSD is shoeing horses. So you pick up a horse's foot, and somebody leads a horse up to you, and you evaluate this horse and about his feet and his legs and how he stands and if he's crippled or not crippled, and if one foot looks like the other one or not look like you try to make them where both front feet look like they belong to the same horse, both back feet look like they belong to the same horse.
Right.
So it keeps your mind working all the time, and you're working this old horse, so you're trying to do the best job you can, and then you get through with that one, then they bring the other one up, it's the same, go through the same situation. So by the end of the day, you have kept your mind busy doing all this right here. Now you're tired and you don't want to think about anything else. So that probably helped me more with my PTSD than any kind of therapy that I could have ever gotten.
Okay. So you didn't end up with therapy or nothing. You just were able to work through it by working.
Yeah, by working.
So making your mind tired and your body at the same time. Mm-hmm. Okay.
And so that helped me out. I hadn't seen anybody in 20 years. And so whenever I got through with that last horse, I went ahead and went on to San Antonio.
Were you by yourself, or did you take your wife?
I was by myself. My wife and kids were off showing horses up in Nebraska or somewhere that at that time. And so I got there, and most of the guys all the guys that I was with in Vietnam in 69, 70 were off doing something or eating or whatever, doing something like that. So I walked in there, got checked in, and went to the hospitality room. And a lot of the guys that were...
Did you take a shower or anything before you went? Or did you go smelling like a horseshoer?
Oh, I went smelling like a horseshoer.
Okay, I just curious. I'm just trying to imagine the picture.
So anyway, so I went and I got there, and all these guys were they call them I call ourselves boat people, because they went through basic IT, same place I did in Fort Lewis, Washington. Then they put them on a boat, and they went a boat over to Vietnam. This was in '64.
So did you go? Oh, okay. You didn't go by boat.
No, I flew.
Okay.
But this was in '64. Charlie kept me third and 22nd, was in Vietnam from '64 to '71. Wow. 72, excuse me,
okay.
72. And then, so these were the guys that were there. So I was giving them a hard time, I said, if you guys had done a better job, I wouldn't have had to go, So he said, "No, we just want to mess around and make them mad. Then that would be worse on you."
Oh, geez.
So anyway, no, we the guys that were there, they all came through the door, and honestly, I hadn't seen anybody in 20 years, and I could call there was like 15 of them. I called every one of them by name.
Wow.
It was really something. So we talked, and I never knew this is like Friday night, and all night Friday night, stayed up talking, shooting the breeze, and then Saturday we went and rode the river that walked there in San Antonio, and then Saturday night we had a banquet. We out at a big dude ranch out west of San Antonio, between San Antonio and Bernie, and it was really neat because during after the meal we had a ceremony. And it was back in the Southwest, there was lightning and kind of going on, and it was a good ways off. And so we always have read the names of the guys that were killed in Vietnam, and there was 3 guys that was killed right beside me at one firefight we was in, and it took me 15 years before I could stand up and actually read their names.
Wow.
And it's a situation where it's still hard.
Yeah.
You know.
I can imagine.
And so anyway, the guys was coming up and reading the names of the guys that was killed in Vietnam, and the lightning kept getting a little bit bigger and a little closer, and then by the time we just the last name was written, the gust of wind came through, knocked the flags down. It was just like those guys were there. Wow. It was
pretty powerful, huh?
It was pretty powerful, let me tell you. And that was the first reunion I went to, and it's still the most memorable.
Yeah. And you've been going ever since, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Dusty gets to go with you now, right?
Dusty goes with us, and I laugh at Dusty. He said, "This is part of your life that I didn't know anything about."
Yep.
And so if you ever get a chance to see Platoon,
Yep.
the movie Platoon,
Is that the one with Charlie Sheen in it?
yeah,
Okay, yep.
that movie right there was probably more like what I dealt with in Vietnam than any other movie that you can see, because the guy that wrote the book Platoon was assigned to Charlie Company 3rd to 22nd in 1968
Okay.
from the headquarters company, and he wrote the book from his memoirs that he wrote during his time with Charlie Company.
Okay.
And so the guy that wrote the book was our guest speaker one year when we had we were in St. Louis at a reunion.
So you guys move over
All around. We had them from Colorado Springs, Vegas, California, Oregon,
Now, did
San Antonio, Minneapolis, St. Paul, Washington, D.C., Orlando, Florida,
everywhere.
Georgia.
Now, whenever Dusty was of age, did you want him to join the military?
No,
No.
no.
But your daughter did join the military.
She did go in the military. I laughed at Brandy. I said, why do you want to go in the Navy? She said, I think their uniforms are cute.
Oh, no.
So there you are.
What a great reason, huh?
Yeah, what a great reason.
Wow. All right.
No, one of the few times that I ever saw my dad cry was we were sitting in the truck out in the middle of a pasture there in Rabia, and he said that I fought in World War II so my son wouldn't have to go to war. So,
And then you went.
yeah.
What did your dad do in World War II?
He was in infantry, and he was not very far from where I was at. He was in the Philippines, and that's where he got wounded in the Philippines.
I'll be dang.
And so he was walking point. They were on this ridge, and the Japanese machine gunner opened up, and the guy that was in front of him it went right across here on him, and just went right, hit, I think 3 rounds hit my dad's leg, one his right leg, and then the guy behind him was killed.
Oh,
he was in the middle, and so he, but the day he got out of the hospital in San Diego, California, was the day the war was over.
I'll be dang.
So,
Man. So that injury haunted him? Did he?
yeah. Yeah,
so
he
was
was
pretty sore.
Yeah, he one leg was a lot smaller than the other, but just because of all the scar tissue and stuff like that. But as far as being, he never let it bother him.
Okay.
Yep.
Was he able to ride?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Oh yeah. He's a pretty good calf roper too.
All right. And did Dusty ever get to meet him?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. Well, that's awesome.
Yeah, he died. In fact, Chase was I think Chase is 25. My dad died when he was 90, and that would have been in 19. He's born in 22, so that had been 2012.
Oh, so much more recent than I thought.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, let's get back to your horseshoeing. So now
Okay.
you're home from Vietnam. You're married. You're
Yep.
out of the service, and where do you go?
Was living in Tishomingo. Went to college at Murray State.
So you
on
picked
the
up college
GI Bill.
again.
Huh?
Okay. All right.
And then I was working for a guy that was training, or that was a lawyer, and he raised thoroughbred racehorses down south of Madill. And I was working there, going to college, and just trimming a few horses along as we just
So were
spending
you
money.
still rodeoing?
Nope,
Okay.
wasn't rodeoing anymore. I was team roping every once in a while, but
Okay.
that's all I was doing. And then went to graduated from Murray State with a degree in farm and ranch management. Went back on the GI Bill, and then I went to work for a dairy in DeKalb, Texas, as a AI technician.
Okay.
And then we left there and moved to Purcell, right south of Oklahoma City.
Yep.
Went to work for a guy that was doing a stocker steer operation, and we'd run about 5,000 cattle through there a year on wheat pasture.
Man.
And I did that for 3 years. I think I got 2 days off consecutively the whole time I was there. Yeah, guy, he was married to that place, and he expects somebody working for him to be married to it too, you know.
Wow. Did he
So
pay you well?
I know.
Oh.
That was so funny. Dan, I was talking about that. That's when my daughter was born. Dusty was about 2 or 3 years old, and I was talking to I was laughing at my wife. I was shoeing horses there in Alvin, and I came home one week and I tallied up what I'd made that week, and it was really a good week, and I'd made like right at $5,000. And I looked at it and I said, "Do you realize that when we were working for Leonard White was the guys working for there in Purcell, and Leonard, we had a house and a truck to drive there on the place, and I was making $400 a month.
Oh, jeez. Yeah. Yeah, part of that's
So
inflation.
that was $4,800 in a year, and I'd made more than that in a week.
Yeah. Well, and, part of that's inflation, but part of that is the gift of shoeing horses, right? Yep.
Yeah. So anyway, when at that time, I was, we didn't have any hardly money, so I was on the week, when I'd get off in the evening, I'd have a horse or two, I'd go shoe or trim or whatever just to make some extra spending money, and then we decided to go back to college, and so went to OSU for a year. My wife and I did, and then I was working for a guy framing houses, and he had some houses to frame in Durango, Colorado. So, man, if you got to work for a living, might as well be someplace where it's pretty. So we took off and went to Durango, Colorado. Stayed there for 4 years.
What year was that? Do you remember?
That would have been 78.
78.
Yep.
So Dusty was 5? How old?
Yeah, he was born in 73.
73,
So
so, yeah.
he was 5, and my daughter was about a year old. Framing houses with this guy, and I got us a place to live, and decided that Fort Lewis College was right there. Might as well go back to college and
So
on
you
my
have-
GI Bill.
But you have a degree by now or not?
I had an associate degree
Okay.
in farm and ranch management.
Okay.
So I decided to go, I took a few courses at OSU, just didn't take advantage of it a lot like I should have. And then so I went to Fort Lewis and got a degree in business, a BA in business.
Okay.
And at that time, I had, on the GI Bill, you didn't have a whole heck of a lot of extra money. So I was shoeing horses and doing a few because you had a little extra time just going to college. So I was doing that. And so when I graduated, I was making more money shoeing horses than what I could start a dead gum job for.
Right.
So, I mean, I was doing this part time. So I told her, I said, well,
And how much were they paying in Durango in '78? Do you remember for a shoe horse?
at that time I was getting right at 25, $30, right deal with a shoe horse.
So that's pretty good.
It wasn't bad.
Yeah.
And I was more or less, like I say, I hadn't gone to any school or anything like that. I was more or less self-taught from my dad. And most of the time, in that time, there was a lot more. There wasn't as many. I got to put it this way: there wasn't as many horses to shoe at that time as what they are now.
Okay.
Because people had gone from having to work horses when they were young and hating it, and not getting back into horses. And it was before, like in the 80s, people got to where they were wanting to have a lot of roping and barrel racing and gymkhanas and stuff like that. People were kind of getting back in to play with horses, with the fun part of it.
Right.
And so didn't have to work with them so much. And all the farmers that then got rid of all their horses and went to tractors. And so, there wasn't that many horses, that was around. If you found a horseoyer that was working and he found out that you was trying to learn something from him, he'd take his apron off and quit. I mean, just because he didn't want you to come back in behind him and pick up his business.
Yep.
Yeah. So it was hard to really, especially, like in Durango, which Durango, it's not really isolated, but there's not a lot going on except what goes along locally right there.
And pretty seasonal in a place like that.
It's real seasonal.
Yep.
So anyway, in the wintertime, I'd work at the ski area, and then on my days off, I'd see what horses had to do. And then in the summertime, you work from daylight till dark. And I picked up a couple of dude ranches that I shot horses for, and it was more or less, I don't know, self-taught type deal where if the people weren't as maybe as particular back then as what they are right now. As long as the shoe stayed on and the horse stayed sound, and you were good.
And if you showed up on that day, the day
Yeah,
you're supposed
if you
to.
showed up on that day.
Yeah. Well,
And
right.
so, so I was more or less, if a horse wasn't traveling right or interfering or something like that, you learned little things to do to help that out. So it was more or less self-taught more than. So then we left Durango in '84 and moved to Houston, or south of Houston, a little town called Alvin.
And how did you find that, Alvin? How did you find Alvin?
My aunt and uncle lived in Pasadena, which is right the suburb of Houston, and so I looked it up on a deal, and there's more horses per capita in that Houston area than there was any other part of the state. So we said, I'm going to be a horseer. Might as well be where they're all at.
Okay. All right. Excellent.
So that was kind of our deal. And so
How did you like that Houston humidity and climate?
I didn't know any better at the time.
Oh, okay. All right.
So anyway, then I got associated with the TPFA, Texas Professional Farrier Association, and they were going to put on a certification. They had it on the north side of Houston, their certification, and so I went up there and just kind of scope it out. I mean, Jeff Eagler. Jeff was there, and with his helper and a couple more people there, got to visit with them.
And this would be what, 1984?
84,
Okay.
84, 85, somewhere right in there.
All right.
And so I just got Jeff. He said, "Man, all my stuff's right here. Why don't you just pay your money to take it right now?" Well, I said, I have no idea. I didn't have a shoe board or yeah. And he says, just take that dead gum test right here. So I paid him $25, whatever it was, and took the test. And
I think it was less. I think it was more like $12.
it wasn't much.
Yeah, it was cheap.
It was pretty cheap. And so anyway, I think at that time, I think I made a 50 or something on the test. And so then I took the horse and I didn't get stopped, but I didn't get
Fast.
I didn't pass it. But it gave me something to cling to and work toward on what was passing.
Well, back then you probably weren't seeing anybody showing other people how to do it, and so you see something like that, and all of a sudden you have a standard to go to. Yeah.
That's
So
right.
I took my certification for the first time in 1990, and the AFA membership was $35, and the exam was $12. So I'd imagine in '84 it probably wasn't a whole lot different. Yeah. Okay. So did you keep chasing the certification then?
Well, yeah, I did. And I went to the next year. They had it in 3 miles from my house.
Wow.
And so I went over there and I didn't pass my written, but you could pay the same money and just retake it right then if you wanted to. So I went over it with the examiner of what I didn't get right, and he was explaining a bunch of stuff to me. And then I retook it and passed it. And then I took my horse, and Jim Poor was my tester.
Oh man.
And so I wound up getting like a 70 for that Jim and I said, I was just griping and raising heck, and this guy pulled me on the side. He said, Jerry, what do they call a doctor that graduates medical school with a 70? A doctor. I said, okay, I get your point. And at that time, you could make on your shoe board, all you had to do was modifications.
I know.
Nothing had to fit. You could make it all in triple odds or twos or mix max it. You just had to have a square toe or extended heel.
If they were close, the shoe display was pretty much a gimme back then. Yeah.
You didn't have to. It didn't. All you had to do is have the modifications.
Yeah.
It didn't have to fit nothing.
Yeah.
So I had done that, and so anyway, I became a certified journeyman for about in 1985.
So you're certified, but not a journeyman yet, right?
No, I was just certified.
Okay. And you're shoeing horses full time. That's all you're doing for a living.
That's all I'm doing for a living.
And Dusty and his sister and their mom are on the road at horse shows?
Well, not at that time. We were just still showing just right around locally.
Okay.
Dusty had a little POA that he was showing, and but he was gradually outgrowing this POA. So we were at a show one day, and it come a heck of a rain. It was all underneath this low canopy and trying to stay dry. And the judge of the show came up to me, and he said, is that your son that's riding the POA? And I said, yes, sir. He said, he is really a good rider. He said, you need to put him on a paint horse. And I said, I guess you've got one for sale. Matter of fact, I do. So we had been looking at some horses, along for Dusty, and so we went and looked at this horse, and his name was Fire and Smoke, and so we should have quit looking right then because Dusty just fell in love with him. And he was an ornery rascal, let me tell you. But him and Dusty got along really good together. And so anyway, that's how we wound up getting in the paint horse business.
Okay.
But I just kind of I was able to work with some other farriers in the area. CB Jolly was one of them.
Oh yeah.
And I was able to work with CB some, and I was able to take a day off maybe once a month or maybe every couple of months, and I'd try to set up a day just to ride with them.
Yeah.
Not necessarily make any money, just and I was thinking at that time, that my customer base was getting a lot more educated all along.
Right.
And so I felt like that I needed to be better educated to keep the clientele that I wanted to shoot for.
Yep.
So that
You're
was
not wrong.
that was kind of how I myself decided to go and try to get a little bit better.
Well, nowadays that particular situation is on steroids with the internet. Your customer can get so much information so fast.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So did you guys homeschool Dusty and his sister?
No.
So they went through regular high school.
Went to regular high school and everything like that. And so anyway, he Dusty always went with me, even whenever we lived in Colorado. he went to like the dude ranches I shot horses for. We kept ledgers on each individual horse.
Oh, wow.
And on what size shoe they wore, front and back. If there was any problems, and if there was, what we could do to fix it or whatever like that. And so he was my time. He was in first grade. He was writing the horse's name down, and I just he was my bookkeeper.
Nice. Well, did you save those ledgers or did you throw them away?
Oh, they kept them.
Oh, you didn't keep them. All right.
No, I didn't keep it. It was for them.
It would be an interesting thing to look back on, wouldn't it?
It would. It
Yeah.
really would. I found some old receipt books the other day back from the '90s that I was going through some boxes and stuff we should have threw away. Now, 40 years ago,
Yeah.
but we didn't.
That's pretty interesting, huh?
It is. It's really interesting.
Yeah.
And some of the names of the customers that I had and what that. And I wrote everything down. What was charging them and so on and so forth. It was definitely eye opening. Got a lot of laughs out of that one.
Oh yeah, I'll bet.
But anyway, we Dusty, even whenever we lived after I graduated college, I mean with associate degree in farm ranch management, we moved to DeKalb, Texas, and I was working on a dairy down there for a year. And he used to go with me down there. He was little then, and I'd have everything in the back of the pickup, and everything that he could pick up and throw over the edge, he would. And I'd just about get a horse shod, and I have to go pick everything back up, put it back in the truck, and I'd work on another one.
Oh, that's funny.
So, but anyway, I never did pursue my journeyman because I was a cold shoer
And making a good living.
and making a good living.
So when I met you guys in 1996, possibly 95, then yeah, it was 95. Dusty stopped by the school, and you guys were about to pursue the journeyman together.
Yeah.
So that's kind of cool. Here you've been shoeing for 30 plus years, and you're
Dusty, CB Jolly was one that he told me one time. He said, your shoeing has really got a lot better, and this is about 94 or 95, whatever like that. And I said, well, thanks. He said, you know why? I said, well, I know you're fixing to tell me. He said, because your son got better than you did. And I went, you think so? And he says, I know so. And he said, that made you peek out your chest and try to get a little bit better yourself.
So when did you get your journeyman?
Well, I shot horses. Dusty, him and I guess the very first, Dusty had shot horses with me, pulling shoes and dressing down and maybe trimming a few and so forth, but he never had nailed any shoes on. So he moved to Arizona and went to work for a guy riding horses. And then after he got out of high school, went to college for a year or so. I told him I'd pay for college as long as he was passing. Well, he got to playing too much and wasn't passing. So he left and went to Arizona and went to work for a guy. And he was, I called him one day and he said, man, you remember how much these guys are making shoeing horses out here? And I went, well, I got a pretty good idea. He said, I'd kind of like to learn how to do this. And I said, okay. I was still shoeing. At that time, they were flying me back and forth to shoe the horses at the dude race there in Durango.
Oh, wow.
And so I said, why don't you just meet me in Albuquerque and we'll just drive on up to Durango and you can pick me up at the airport in Albuquerque. And he said, okay. So he did. We went up there and I'd brought an extra pair of chaps and everything that we needed to shoe horses up there. And so I told him, I said, okay, what do you feel like you need help with? He said, I need some help nailing. I never have nailed any shoes on. I said, all right, tell you what I'll do. I'll take and trim the foot, shape the shoe, and put one nail on each side. You come back in and nail up the other 6 nails. At that time, that dude race putting all 8 of them in there.
Absolutely.
So he did. So we shod 100 head of horses in 4 days.
Whoa. And he still liked it.
Yeah. So he took me back to Albuquerque, then drove on back to Phoenix. And a few days later, I called him and I said, "Hey, everything's going pretty good." And I said, "You ride many horses?" And he went, "Man, I hadn't rode any since I've been back." And I went, "Why?" And he said, "My hands are so sore, I can't hold the reins." But anyway, that
I don't doubt it.
in July that year, he had came down and with the guy that him and the guy had kind of got crossways, and I told him, I said, we were in Fort Worth at the Paint World Show, and I said, why don't you just get in the truck with me and we'll go back to Colorado and shoot them horses? Let's go. So we took off, went back there, and then he came back home with me, and we shot horses from all the way through July, August, about the middle of September. He left and went to Kansas, but I was trying to think the guy that went to work for him up there. Anyway, he was the undertaker there in Kansas, but he raised paint horses, and he offered Dusty a job riding horses. Well, he decided that winter was cold.
But he didn't decide that shoeing horses south of Alvin in July, August, September wasn't hot.
Or not. He won't go down there anymore.
Oh man, no. So that's how he ended up in Kansas.
Yep.
Okay.
Him and Stacy met, and they got married, and Stacy was going to school at Fort Scott, getting a degree in finance and something other. Anyway,
But you were still in Alvin.
I was still in Alvin. I would fly up there and shoe horses with him, you know. And
Oh really? So you helped him out get going, huh?
you know, I just went up there to just to visit and see what was going on.
Yeah.
And anyway, then so he became a certified journeyman farrier. I think it's your certification.
In the Heartland, yep.
And then so I decided, man, I better get on the ball. And honest to God, when I first went up there and Dusty was doing some foraging, and we were at oh gosh, his neighbor that was a good shoer. Anyway, we was over to his place.
Steve Hayes?
Huh?
Steve Hayes?
No, wasn't Steve.
Robert
What-
McLaren?
Huh?
Robert McLaren?
Yeah. What? No. What? Robert? Way before Robert. I keep
How about Jerry Matthews?
Jerry Matthews.
Okay. So
Jerry
Jerry
Matthews.
place? All
And,
right.
and so we went over to Jerry Matthews, and I didn't even know how to hold a pair of fire tongs. So I went back home and I'd bought me all the egg stuff, because actually I bought a forge up there that Dusty was working for a guy up there that was making a few forges. So I bought one from him, took it back home, and got to practicing and just making shoes. And so I think the very first time I came up and went to your pre-cert school,
Right.
And then took the test, and then the next year I came back and took the test again on become a farrier. I mean, a certified journeyman farrier, and then didn't do any good either way. The first
No?
time I passed my my bar shoe.
Okay.
The very first time. And then I didn't do any good the next year. It rained and I was outside and just
Didn't work.
didn't work. Then the very first year I had an old horse that had a real boxy kind of a front foot, and that's the hardest thing in the world for me to fit.
Yep. And it's hard to fit with handmaids, especially in the early days.
Yeah.
Trying to get that measurement with that heel quarter takes so much material, and that reverse heel check's hard to put on.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, I understand.
So anyway, didn't do any good. So I went back. Man, Dusty said, "You want to go back to Kansas City and go home to bar?" Nope, I'm heading home. So I drove from your house all the way back to Alvin, thinking about what I needed to do. I just need to chunk that book out the window and quit, or really get a little more serious. So I got a little more serious, and I went to again about 3 miles from my house to a stables, and they had TPFA had their certification, and this was probably 3 months after yours, and
And so during that 3 months, were you getting up early and making shoes and putting on handmaids? What?
I was trying to the last horse of the day. I tried to make it to where I made a journeyman run either on a front or a hind
After a full day of shoeing,
after a
that'd be
full
the
day
end of your
shoeing.
day, huh?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
And then I'd be making handmaids early in the morning or late at night. And so I came up to I think I turned 50 years old on Wednesday and passed my journeyman test on Saturday.
There you go. That's awesome.
So that's a good birthday present.
Yeah, that really was.
So
Well, that's pretty incredible. Do you ever tell dad jokes? You don't have no dad jokes?
not that I can think of right now.
Okay. All right. And then I always ask my guests to teach me something unrelated. So, you can teach me like, this is how I hook up a trailer, or this is how I start my barbecue grill. So do you have a special skill that you can teach me with words?
You know, we've been Dusty and I got in the cow business.
Okay.
Matt Capnavage and I got in the cow business probably 5-6 years ago.
Okay.
And so Dusty bought Matt out this last summer.
Okay.
So Dusty and I are partners right now in the cow business. So he's I think he's always wanted to do this. He finally just had an opportunity to do it. So him and I are we've been going through and trying to figure out what we kept some heifers from last year, calf bulls that we bred. We had one Simmental. He was like 7/8 Simmental and 1/8 Angus. And we kept him, and we had calves out of him this year that we kept for some replacement heifers.
Right.
So we've been going through and trying to figure out which ones are going to be the best, which ones. So you got to look at a whole bunch of. You got to look at confirmation of the heifer, and then you've got to look at whether or not you think that she's going to have any problem calving.
Right.
And because that's where it all boils right back down to.
Sure.
But is her calf going to be good enough to be able to keep a heifer out of, or we just go down the road with them?
So what do you look for?
So you look for one that's got a pretty wide hip and one that's got a pretty long hip, and where their back is just nearly as wide as what their hips are.
Okay.
And then they can be a little narrow at the front. If a lot of times if you want a cow that is not really, really big, because on a commercial herd, you don't want to feed it. You don't feed up all your profits. So you want a cow that weighs 900 pounds that weans off a 450 or 500 pound calf every year. Right. Something that's half their weight.
Okay.
And that way you can have a chance of them making you $1.
Okay.
Or at least keeping your money together. I don't know if there's anybody who makes any money in the cow business.
Oh, there's some.
There is some.
Yeah, it is like the horse business. There's a lot of the bottom that are feeding the top.
Yeah, that's it. But anyway, yeah, you want one that shows femininity, but you want one with kind of a square head and ones that's got a little bone to her. We decided to go with the Simmental cross to get a little bit more size on our cows.
Okay.
So,
all right. Well,
and hopefully with more size on the cows, the less problem they'll have calving.
Okay.
So we got a little Angus bull to breed them to that stole small calves.
Good deal. All right. And then do you have any inspirational sayings? Do you, there's something come to mind when you're working with students that says, man, nothing come to mind?
I feel like that the reason I moved up here and in helping Dusty with the school is I feel like that as much experience as I have, I need to let somebody else access it more so than what I did had a chance whenever I was trying to learn something.
And so you're 76 and still shoeing horses. And how many do you shoe a week, Jerry?
This last week I didn't shoe any over the holidays, but on a normal deal, by myself, I'll go shoe a couple of horses and trim 3 or 4 more or less in a day's time.
Okay. So still getting under 20 head a week.
Yeah.
I'll be dang. All right. And do you don't have to have the money now, do you?
No, not really. My wife thinks I do.
Maybe she just wants you out of the house.
That's right.
Yeah.
But no, it's something that I really enjoy, and it's something that if I wasn't, I'd tell everybody that just keeps me out of the bar. But so there you are.
There we are.
keeps you young, keeps you busy. I've got some arthritis and stuff, and I don't know how much longer. Hopefully I'm doing it another 10 years.
Yep.
Maybe not as many as what I do right now.
Now, have you had anything replaced, like knees or hips or anything?
No, thank
Not yet.
God. I've just been lucky all these years.
Yeah. Wow. Well, there's a lot of Friday the 13th come together for you, huh?
That's right. That's it right there. And in a lot of I think that if a person, maybe you could tell somebody that's up here at the school if they've had any background with horses,
Sure.
and they have a little horsemanship and a little common sense. That, to me, that makes so much easier to become a better farrier.
Sure.
If you be able to read an old horse and see when that son of a gun's fixing to do something, and you're able to prepare yourself for what's fixing to happen.
Yep. Without a doubt.
And I know you can sometimes you can pick them out. It's just walking through the students on which ones have had just a little horsemanship before they get here.
Yep. Yeah. That's
And some people just come by it naturally.
Yep.
I mean, honestly, my dad had a brother that was helped him in, we was working cows and stuff like that, and he always had a knack of being at the wrong place at the wrong time every time. And a lot of these students are,
some of them have that.
they still the same way. They'll walk up to an old horse and get the wrong vibes, and all of a sudden,
Yep.
that
No, it's true. You're not there, and there are some people that horses just don't like.
Yeah.
And when that person wants to be a horseshoer, sometimes that's a tough combo. That person has to overcome so much
Yeah.
to get from that position to where they can shoe horses.
Yeah, where you can shoe horses. Yeah, I had an individual, an Indian boy, and when I was living in Durango, and he was one of the first ones that I ever took with me shoeing horses. And after about 2 months, I finally told him he needed to go get a mall job.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he could walk up to the horse, the one that I just got through trim,
Right.
and walk up to him just to see what size shoe he needed.
And the horse tried to bite him or something.
Yeah.
Yeah. We've had a few students where you're just like, you don't want to hurt anybody's feelings. You don't just say, listen, horses hate you. But there's been a few that even the best horses will try to stomp into a pile because they just, let off a bad vibe, or maybe they smell bad. I don't know what a horse sees in them, but yeah, you're not wrong.
Yeah, I've been blessed by having ability to read an old horse and keep from getting killed through the years.
Yeah, that's experience, without a doubt. Well, sir, you have been a wonderful guest, and I'm so thankful I got to capture this story. And thank you for opening it up about Vietnam. I think there's going to be a lot of youngsters that they just have no clue of what that was like, And so, thank you very much. You've been a friend for a long time.
Thank you.
That was awesome.
I enjoyed it.
Cody and I have, we've done stuff with the Worshipful Company before, and we are bringing the exam back to the Heartland. So Cody is putting on a series of clinics. Mark Trussler is coming January 24th, 25th. Then he's got Jonathan Nunn. Jonathan Nunn's going to be here on March 15th and 16th. Cody's going to do a clinic in April. And then we will have the exam right here in the Heartland May 16, 17, and 18. So if you're ready to take yourself to the next level, ready to face that next challenge, or if you just want to come to the clinics and see what you can learn, get hold of Cody. Cody's at CodyGregoryLLC.com if you want to email him through his website, or you can call him at 417-262-3060.